All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants event. My name is Joe Grabowski, and I'll be your host for today. It has been just a crazy busy day at Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. We've had 6 live events today. We've been live from Norway. We've been learning about songbirds. Now we're going to talk about raptors. We've had 2 live events with the Georgian Bay National Park here in Canada, learning about flint napping and its importance to Indigenous peoples. It's just been an awesome day today. This month, we've kicked off the month with over 50 live events for classrooms to join into. I'm going to share a quick link here, exploringbytheseat.com. You can find the events coming up for the last few days of September, and then we're also adding all of the October events as well. We're going to get into some space exploration and all kinds of other cool themes for October. So we're going to spend a little time here. Every fall, we connect with the Intermountain Bird Observatory outside of Boise, Idaho, and we do a few things there. We learn about the migration of songbirds and raptors, and what they do is they catch the birds, they measure them, weigh them, take all kinds of important recording, and then band them so that their movements can be tracked, and if they're recaught later, we can learn a little bit more about them. Now, normally we're doing the event live from the field, but a cold front blew in with some wet weather, so we've had to change plans a little bit. We're going to be joined by Heidi, who is going to tell us all about the great work that they do at the observatory and about banding raptors and why it's so important. We've got a great clip to play from a previous event where we did that very thing, and then we'll play a little Kahoot quiz together and get classrooms a little bit interactive. So pay attention and listen. And we'll see who comes out on top. So let's bring Heidi in with us now. Hey, Heidi, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. It's good to see you. It seems like just a few hours ago.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, very cool. Well, it's great to see you and great to see that it doesn't look like it's raining as hard as it was earlier.
No, not as bad.
Yeah, good. So hopefully we'll keep you a little drier. I'm going to let you take over for a little bit. We've got a great group of classrooms joining us right now from across North America. We'll let you take over for a little bit. Cue me up when you're ready for the video, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Well, yeah. So like Joe said, my name's Heidi, and I work for the Intermountain Bird Observatory. So we're a research group that's part of Boise State University here in Idaho, and we focus on bird conservation. So a lot of the work that we do during the fall includes catching and tagging birds to study their populations and their movements as birds are heading from north to south, so heading south for the winter. And normally I would be up on our Lucky Peak station that's just outside of Boise, but to get there, it's a really, really long dirt road, and we've had rain all night and all morning, and so we actually can't drive the road right now. I was actually just messaging with our hawk trapper up there, Jessie, and she said that they're still in clouds up on the top of the ridge. So they're not seeing very many raptors right now. But our research station, Lucky Peak, is on the top of a really beautiful mountain ridge, and it runs north-south. So it's the perfect site to study bird migration as they're traveling north and south for spring and fall migration. And in the afternoons, I already talked to you guys this morning. We were doing songbirds. In the afternoons, we do hawk watch and hawk trapping. So we're looking to count every hawk that flies overhead and track their populations that way. And then we're also catching and tagging them. So we're putting a small band on their leg that has 9-digit number on it. And that's a unique number. So each bird we catch has its own identifier, and we hope that either we at our team or another biologist somewhere else catches that bird again, reads that tiny little number, and then we can figure out where that bird went to, how long it lived, etc. So it's an interesting long-term migration project because it allows us to track populations over time. And with climate change, that's especially important. So we've actually analyzed our data. We've been doing this for about 25 years. And we've found that a lot of different hawk species are shifting their migration timing. So they might be leaving earlier or later, depending on the species. And that's giving us some idea of how these species might hopefully be adapting to climate change. And so as we continue to monitor this data over the long term, we're always watching those population trends, looking for any changes so that we can act. If we notice a problem with a certain bird species, we can work with other scientists and our communities to help conserve them and protect them. So yeah, maybe we can watch the video and I could talk a little bit more about what we do, if that works for you, Joe.
Okay. So, zoom in, Eric, sorry. Of our little kestrel. And we just caught another bird, so you guys are bringing us good luck. So you guys can see, sorry if you guys can't hear me, but Eric is deciding what size band to put on the kestrel. So he's picked out a band and he's going to use the pliers that he has to open the band. He's going to make it kind of a C shape so that he can put it on the leg of the bird. And then, oh, there's a lot of raptors around. Sorry, guys. And then he's going to put the band in the pliers, and that hole allows him to close the pliers around the leg without touching the leg of the bird. So the band fits a watch or a bracelet, so it can spin, it can move up and down, and feels really comfortable on the leg of that bird. So you can see how those holes work perfectly to close that band. And this band has a 9-digit number on it that allows us to catch again, or catches this kestrel, we'll be able to read that number and know where that kestrel came from, when it was captured. We'll be able to see how old it was when it first caught. So that can allow us to figure out the lifespan of these birds. And so you guys can see Eric's recording on the data sheet. One of the first things he's recording is, of course, the species. So this is an American kestrel. They are the smallest falcon in North America. And so they're related to birds like the peregrine falcon, which you guys may have heard of before. We're also recording what time we caught the bird. We're recording the date. So we can look at our time, how many through, and actually this year we're catching fewer kestrels than average. So it'll be really interesting at the end of the season to look at the big picture and see, you know, what was going on. Why did we catch fewer kestrels than normal? Other things Eric's going to do is he's going to take some measurements of this little kestrel. So one thing we do when you guys go to the doctor's office and they measure how tall you are, we can measure the length of the wing on the kestrel and the length of the tail to get an idea of size. And you guys can see kestrels have very sharp little beaks. And so this kestrel is trying to bite Eric's fingers while he's trying to measure it. So something we have to do is learn how to safely handle the birds, to keep the birds safe, but also to keep ourselves safe, because with raptors, they have a few different adaptations that they can use, usually to hunt their prey, but so when biologists are catching them, they can use them on us too. So in a second, we'll zoom in. Once Eric measures the tail, we'll get a look at this kestrel in a little more detail. You can see this is a male kestrel. So there, yeah, nice, thanks. So male kestrels have that beautiful blue color on them. They also have this all orange tail with tip on their tail. So they're one of the few raptors that you can actually tell male versus female just based on their feathers. Most of our other raptors, we have to look at other characteristics like size to be able to figure out if they're a male or a female. Talking to Jesse and Joe about planning for today, we had a really, really high wind forecast. And so we actually thought we weren't going to catch any hawks for you guys, but we have this American kestrel right here. And then we also just brought this little sharp-shinned hawk. Let me see if I can show you guys his little claws right. So he's calm. He won't be able to see us right now, so it's kind of a relaxing place for him to hang out and wait until he gets his band. Oh, and maybe there's another bird. We're looking outside. Might catch something. Nice. All right. So we just caught another sharp-shinned hawk.
Wow, these guys brought the mojo.
Nice job, guys.
You brought good luck. We were worried.
So 3 hawks when we thought we were going to catch 0. So you can see Nick just ran out. We use a trap called a bow net, and it has a really soft mesh net that flips up over the top of the hawk when they come into the station. So Nick is getting this little hawk out of the net, and then he'll bring it back so you guys will be able to see it closer. So we're checking out the tail on this kestrel. One of the things we do with birds is we try to figure out how old they are. And we can do that by looking at their feathers. So young birds at this time of year have feathers. Oh, let's see. Interesting. And this will tell if they're adults or young birds. So we're looking to see if it's growing any new feathers. So this is kind of like you guys. You guys might have a mix of grown-up and baby teeth in your mouth. And some of you might be growing in new teeth. And so we can look and see if birds are actively growing in any new feathers, and that can tell us how old they are. So this time of year, it's all the adults, it's all the grown-ups that are actively growing in new feathers. And I don't see any new growing in feathers on this kestrel, and I don't think, do you see any, Eric?
So far, I wonder if this just looks like it might fight might be beating it up a bit. Because the strap color is the same.
You guys can see the face.
All right, let's bring Heidi back in there. So the location, it's on a mountaintop. The connectivity is not always great, but I mean, it's always so much fun to see the whole process. Can you walk us through the process? Because we saw people pulling on cords. We saw someone running out to grab one of the sharp-shinned hawks. Tell us a little bit about the process. How do you convince the raptor to come down? And yeah, so the way we do it, well, first, when you're looking to study hawk migration, you want to find a place where a lot of raptors are passing over. And so you're looking for a place that has the right air currents. A lot of raptors, when they're migrating, are looking for a place where they can soar. So they can fly with their wings spread out, and they can just sort of spiral up in the air, and they don't have to flap because flapping takes a lot of energy. So if they can avoid flapping and find a place with the right air currents, they will. And so our Lucky Peak station is the perfect example of that. There's a ridge that runs north-south, and that's the direction the raptors want to fly. And there's a valley below. We also often have winds like this front that's coming through today. The wind is coming from the west and going east. And when the wind hits the ridge, it shoots up in the air and it creates this nice updraft. So the air is pushing up, and that means if a hawk flies in that rising air, they'll soar up as well. We're also lucky because on the edge of our valley, there's nice warm air in the valley. The sun will shine down on the valley, and then that'll create rising air currents. So just like a hot air balloon rises, when there's warm air in the valley, it starts rising. And so you get what are called thermals. So columns of rising air. So at Lucky Peak, we'll often see raptors. They'll be soaring along.
they'll run into a thermal and they'll start spiraling up. So they'll use that thermal almost like a staircase to climb higher. So our trapping station is right along that ridge, right where there's lots of thermals. So we've picked the right spot. Then you have to make sure the hawks can't see you. So we are inside a little trapping blind. So it's basically a little box made out of wood, a little hut where the biologists can stay and the hawks don't see us. They think of humans as a threat. So if they see a human, they won't come anywhere near our trapping station. And then the last thing we need is bait. So just like you might go fishing and use a lure that looks like a frog or an insect, we do the same thing, except we use lure birds. So we actually will have a pigeon. We put it in a little leather vest to protect it. So it's like a little bulletproof vest. And it's on a little leash, basically, so the pigeon can't fly away. And around the pigeon, we have nets and traps. So as the hawks are flying along, they're soaring during the day, they spot our pigeon. That's our lure. And they want to come in because they want to try to eat that pigeon. But instead of catching the pigeon, as they're flying in towards the pigeon, they run into one of our traps. So in the video, you guys saw our little bow net that we can flip over to catch the hawk. We also use things called mist nets, which is like a wall of net that catches the hawk and holds it in a little pocket until we can come and pull the hawk out. So if you're a hawk trapper, you have to pay careful attention because you're wanting to pull the string to make sure your lure is flapping and looks tempting for a raptor. And then you also have to be watching because when a raptor comes in, you want to trigger that trap so that you can catch the hawk and so that the hawk doesn't get a hold of your pigeon. And so that's how we catch them. You noticed in the video, we run out to grab the hawk and then we bring them back inside the blind so that we can hide, measure and weigh that hawk and still continue trapping other hawks. Today, Jesse, our trapper, is hoping because it's so windy, we're not going to have very many thermals. So we're probably not going to have very many hawks soaring. But what she might find as the clouds lift, falcons, they don't soar, they flap. So they are constantly moving and flapping. They're really speedy birds, like the peregrine falcon. And so even though she's not going to catch very many birds today, she's going to have her eyes open for those falcons because those are the birds that can handle these high winds. The other hawks today are all hunkered down, probably just waiting in the forest, hoping for the weather to clear.
All right, very cool. Well, I think about that target, that pigeon, but it's well protected with its vest. Remind me, what's the vest made of?
It's really thick leather, so
Thick leather.
it kind of goes all the way around the pigeon's body and covers it up.
All right, very cool. Well, it's a great description, yeah, it's neat to see the process, and it was neat to see in the video when he ran out to grab the hawk. Really neat to see everyone's so quiet, the working of the ropes and such. Very, very cool. Yeah, awesome. Okay, well, Heidi, I have a little quiz ready for the classrooms.
Awesome.
I mentioned that we were going to have a Kahoot, so I'm going to share a link here. We just started doing these in September. The classrooms love them, so lots of fun to have the little interactive quiz. If you head over to that link there, you will see that you're going to be asked for a PIN number, and I'm going to give you that momentarily. If you're in a classroom or tuning in from home and you have one-to-one technology, say a Chromebook or a tablet, you can join right at your seat. If your class doesn't have that, no big deal. You can join as the educator at the front of the room, and your students can shout out the answer to you. If for some reason you're not able to connect via tech in your classroom, just shout out the answer and see how you do. So let me share my screen here. There we go. And let's generate that PIN number for us. Oops, I hit the wrong button. I want to hit play. There we go. Okay, so that PIN number should pop up for us momentarily. Awesome, there we go, 9184962. So we'll give a few moments for us to start and see some players starting to join us. Here they come. Excellent. There'll be 4 questions, 20 seconds for each question. If you get the answer right, well, that's going to be some good points for you. If you get it right really quickly, that's even better. If you get it wrong really quickly, well, we got nothing for you. So speed is good, but speed with the right answer is the key. Oh, look at that. We're racing towards 100 students. Heidi, we've just blasted through 100 students. Excellent. Let's give another few seconds here as more students continue to join us. It's going to be some stiff competition today, I think, for that top spot, top 1, 2, 3. There goes the 150. All right. Well, let's get things started here. About 3 seconds till the first question comes up on the screen in our Raptors quiz. Here we go. So, where is the Intermountain Bird Observatory? Was that in Montana, Idaho, South Dakota, or Nebraska? Where did we say the observatory is located? A couple more seconds. All right, overwhelmingly went with Idaho, which is 100% correct. Let's check out the leaderboard. Max with 2 X's is in the lead, but by 2 points, so it is tight. Let's see, question 2 coming up. Where is the band placed on the bird? Was that the tail? Were they putting it on the wing? Were they putting it on the leg? Or were they putting it on the beak of the raptor? The tail, the wing, the leg, or the beak? Personally, I hope it's not the beak. That would make things tricky for the bird. All right. Majority went with the leg, absolutely. Oh, Cold Chihuahua. I think we've had Cold Chihuahua play before, and they are sweeping into first place right now. 3 of 4. Why might hawks be shifting their migration times? Are they dodging storms? Is there better airfare to keep the researchers guessing, or might they be responding to climate change? So Heidi mentioned this a little bit earlier. What do you think? Why might they be leaving a little later, a little earlier? Why might their time be changing? All right, most went with responding to climate change. Good stuff. Cold Chihuahua holding it down, but by 2 points. Anything can happen with this final question. What type of vest does the pigeon wear for protection? Was it leather? Was it cotton? Was it steel? Or was it wool? What's protecting that lure, that pigeon from those? Well, you can see those claws look pretty intimidating if they were coming towards you. Couple more seconds. All right, so we talked about it being made from leather. Let's see how things wrapped up. 3rd place, Max with 2 X's. Good job, Max. Alex D holding down the silver spot. Cold Chihuahua with the speed. I think that's 2 wins in the last little while. Good work, Cold Chihuahua. All right, let's move away from our quiz and let's get into some live Q&A action. So those tuning in via YouTube, use the chat and send us in some questions. Let us know where you're tuning in from because we like to know that too. But for now, let's start meeting a few camera classrooms. Let's go right to North Palm Beach, Florida. I believe the home of Cold Chihuahua, if I'm correct. Let's bring them in here. Hey, Mr. LeVog's crew, how are we doing?
Cold Chihuahua right here.
Cold Chihuahua.
And 2-time winner.
2-time. Got the fast fingers.
All righty. We do have questions. Thank you. Well, go ahead.
What is the biggest bird that you have caught in traps?
Okay.
So what is the biggest bird you have caught in traps?
Oh, so the biggest bird that we catch at our station is a golden eagle. I've never gotten to be there when we catch golden eagles, so we usually catch less than 1 a year. But I have to shout out to one of our trappers this year, Kate, has caught 2. So normally we catch between 0 and 1, and she's caught 2 already. So pretty amazing. The biggest bird I've seen in the hands, the biggest raptor, is a gyr falcon, which is a falcon that nests up in the Arctic. So really pretty gray, kind of ice-colored bird.
Heidi, can you give us an idea of the wingspan of a golden eagle?
I think that's like 8 or 9 feet. They're
Wow.
really big.
That's a big bird.
Yeah.
All right. Good question. We're going to come back your way because I have a feeling we'll be able to get through a few rounds of questions. So let's go to Mrs. Weller's class this time. They're joining us from Kansas, Clay Center, Kansas. Let's bring them in. There they are. Hey, boys and girls, how you doing?
We built our own bird blinds.
Oh, hold it up.
Whoa, nice.
I'm going to make that big screen. Very cool.
I love it.
What do you think, Heidi? You want to try that design for next year?
I think it could work. It looks pretty similar to ours.
There's some good ones there. Good work. All right. Who's got a question?
Ryan, come on up. Ryan. What is the smallest raptor?
We catch 2 pretty small
What's
ones.
the
So in the
smallest
video,
raptor?
the smallest one. So we catch 2 pretty small ones. One really small one is the American kestrel that you guys saw in that video. So they're the smallest falcon in North America. And then we also catch a bird called a sharp-shinned hawk. And male sharp-shinned hawks are as small as American robins. So you might have seen a robin hopping around in your yard. Imagine a hawk that's, tiny little guys. So they're pretty little.
All right. Very cool. Well, everybody's crowded around. Let's see if there's another question. We may as well grab a second one.
How many birds have you caught today?
Today they have caught none
many
because
birds
there's a
have
big
you-
storm. But usually we catch between 15 and maybe 25 hawks a day.
Yeah, we've been lucky enough in the past. I think 4 or 5 might be the record in one of the live events. So 45 minutes catching 4 or 5. That's pretty cool. Feels pretty lucky to be in on one of those. All right, let's see. Let's go to Taylorville, Illinois this time. Some 8th graders hanging out here. Let's bring them in. There we go. Hey, 8th graders. And then we need the mic too. I think the mic's still on mute.
That's better. You can hear me okay now?
We gotcha. Perfect.
Somebody have a question? Come on up. We've got one. You can get in front of the camera there. There you go. All right.
What's the oldest bird you've ever caught? How old did you estimate it to be?
So at our station, I'd have to check our data, but I do remember a few recently that have been 3 or 4 years old. Last year, we caught a prairie falcon that was actually banded down in California. So it was really cool to get that recapture. The record for raptors, a lot of our hawk species can live even close to 30 years. So they can live a long time in the wild.
All right, very cool. There's a question that came in online here from Baltimore, and they're wondering, you kind of mentioned records. So do you keep a score? Like, can you tell us the biggest catch? What was your record year?
I don't have that off the top of my head. I will say, so this year we're heading towards a record number of red-tailed hawks. So we've never passed 100 red-tailed hawks in 1 year, and we're actually about to do that. So it seems like we're catching a lot of them. We do monitor that. It's fun to count, but also that's one of the most important things about it, the monitoring that we do, is seeing if we're catching really high or really low numbers of birds. And that's something we're doing this year, actually. We're not seeing as many sharp-shinned hawks as normal. And so we've been getting a hold of other biologists in the area. So south of us in Utah and Nevada, and north of us up into Canada, to find out what's going on. And they're also seeing low numbers too. So by coordinating like that, we can get a much better picture of what's going on for that bird species.
Yeah, I think, it's great to have the numbers, but it can tell you so much about how patterns are changing, how numbers are changing, how ecosystems, if they're healthy or not. So much that you can learn from, Very cool. Let's see here. Where should we go now? Let's go to Minnesota, Miss Oak's crew. How we doing?
Good.
Good.
Okay, my question is, what is the most interesting information you have received by banding a bird?
The most interesting information we've gotten. Well, I would say any recapture we get is really important. So when we started banding hawks, one of the first things we started to learn is that a lot of our birds, like Cooper's hawks and sharp-shinned hawks, go all the way to Mexico for the winter. And that actually kind of surprised us because here in Idaho, we might see Cooper's hawks and sharp-shinned hawks all winter long. So they don't all leave, but a lot of them actually continue much farther south. So to us, that was really interesting to learn. And again, recaptures are one of the coolest things. So we often get recaptures of birds that are born in California, which is south of us, and they come up to Idaho at the end of the summer and visit us for a while because there's a lot of prey available, and then they leave us again. So that's another weird pattern that we discovered by catching and tagging these raptors.
All right. Well, this morning a question came up asking about the fast birds, and we talked about the peregrine falcon. So Heidi's tuning in and wondering if peregrine falcons have ever been banded at the station.
Yeah, so we actually band usually a few each year. And like I mentioned, on this windy day, I think that's probably what Jesse is hoping to catch today, is maybe a peregrine falcon. So we catch between 1 and maybe 7 or 8 on a normal year. And they're always a treat. They're really, really fast and keep our trappers on their toes for sure.
Yeah, so we always think the cheetah is really fast at 70 or so miles per hour, but dive bombing a pigeon at 200 miles per hour, that's pretty darn impressive.
Yeah, I've been outside the trapping blind when a peregrine comes in trying to get our pigeon, and you can just hear like whoosh, as they cross over your head. It's pretty crazy.
Very cool. Well, Heidi, we've got a class who's not too far away from you in Idaho, an 8th grade class in Boise. Let's bring them into the call. Where are they hiding? There we go. Hey, Boise, how we doing? There's a lot of feedback coming through on the mic. Can you try that again, nice and loud?
How does the size of the bird's wing affect how it flies?
All right, good question.
Yeah, good question. Well, first I should say hi. I hope you guys are enjoying the rainy day here in Boise. The size of the bird's beak. So I would say it probably doesn't affect them too much. Most birds have a really streamlined beak shape that helps them stay really aerodynamic. So even if they have a really long beak out front, it's usually sloped in a way to meet their forehead that it doesn't really cause any drag on birds. One cool thing, though, if we're talking about bird beaks and speed, a lot of falcons have a little cone inside their nostril that looks like the cone that's inside of a jet engine. And we actually hypothesize that that cone helps them breathe and pull air into their nostrils even when they're flying really fast. So I don't know if you've ever like stuck your head out a car window when it's going really quickly. It's kind of hard to breathe because that air is just whooshing past your face. So falcons actually have a little adaptation in their nose to help them not pass out and keep breathing when they're flying so fast.
All right. And what about wings? Does the wing shape, can that affect how it flies, whether it's a glider, a diver, a flapper?
Absolutely. And so today with this bad weather, that's a perfect example. So falcons have really, really pointed wings, and that allows them to flap and go at really high speeds. So things like falcons and ducks that have the long pointed wing shape are really good at flying in high speed. They have a lot of maneuverability and control. Birds like a red-tailed hawk or an eagle, they have really, really broad wings that make them really, really good at soaring. So the huge wing is like a paddle that catches the air and lets them get lift and soar. But it also means that if there's high wind, they will just blow around like a kite and they can't control themselves. So that's why we'll see this difference today, where I bet we won't have very many soaring birds, at least until the clouds lift.
All right, let's head over to Monroe High School in Washington. Let's pop in that crew there. There they are. How are we doing, Washington?
So what is the most common bird you get at the conservatory?
Most common. So our two most common that we catch are birds called accipiters. So they're a type of hawk that eats birds. So we have a lot passing through our Lucky Peak station because it's a great migration route for songbirds. So the hawks are there partly because of the wind currents, but also partly because there's lots of food for them to eat during migration. So the two that we catch the most often are Cooper's hawks and sharp-shinned hawks. And if you live anywhere in a city and have bird feeders, those are usually the hawks that you'll see coming into your bird feeders. They have a really long tail that helps them steer and chase down small songbirds, so they can chase them through the forest and grab them pretty easy. So those two species really like our lure birds since they're bird specialists.
All right. Well, we definitely have some time to visit a few of the classrooms again. So give me a big wave from your classroom or send somebody right up to the camera so I can see them nice and front and center if you want us to revisit for another question. So let's start off with Miss Oak's crew. I see them ready to go.
Hello.
Hi.
What bird gets the most scared when you capture it?
Oh, gets the most scared? Actually, so I can't read their minds, but if I had to guess, I would actually guess red-tailed hawk, which is a really big hawk. But when we catch them, their defense is just to freeze, and they just look at you, and they just hold still, and they sort of wait for you to do all your measurements, and then you let them go, and then they fly away. Probably the bravest birds are the small ones, like American kestrels. They usually yell at us, and they're like, "I'm gonna beat you up," and they get really mad. So they're actually the more feisty ones of the bird world, even though they're really tiny.
All right. Good to know. Very cool. Great question. Let's go back to Boise. I see someone up there. There we go.
We have two questions.
All right.
Okay.
Let's go. We're ready.
My question is, what happens if you guys get hurt during the bird banding?
Well, we do keep Band-Aids on hand, but usually the injuries aren't too bad. So I would say the worst injury I usually get is American kestrels know how to bite right next to your fingernail, and they just get their tiny little beak right in there. So I bleed a little bit, so I always put some Neosporin, make sure I don't get an infection, and clean it up and put a Band-Aid on and keep on going.
All right. Hit us with that second question.
What's the prettiest bird?
The prettiest? Oh, man. That's hard to decide. I would say the most colorful we catch in raptor trapping is probably American kestrel. One of my favorites that we catch is northern harrier. So actually, if you go on our Instagram page this week, we posted a picture. The male northern harriers are this beautiful silver gray color. They're really pretty. And the females, their eye color is like gold. It's yellow, but it has these beautiful brown and bronze flecks in them. So I think northern harriers are really beautiful.
All right. Trick question. You're supposed to say all of them are amazing.
All the birds are pretty.
Yeah. Very cool. Okay. Let's go to Florida. I think I see a student waiting for us there.
Yes, we actually have two questions as well. Go ahead.
Have you ever seen a bird at Lucky Peak that shouldn't be in that area?
Have I ever seen a bird that what?
A bird at Lucky Peak that shouldn't be where you found it.
Oh yeah. So we more often see that with our songbirds. So sometimes we get birds from the East Coast that we shouldn't catch. But actually this season we caught a bird called a red-shouldered hawk. And it's a bird that is only found in California in the western United States. So it's only the second one we've ever seen in 25 years. So we were pretty surprised.
And we had one more. Callie, do you want to go ahead?
What's the most aggressive bird?
Aggressive? Well, I would say, man, that's a tough one. Falcons, I think of as maybe the most aggressive because they can bite and that really hurts. When we're handling the birds, we're trained to hold them to keep them safe, but also keep us safe from them. So we usually don't have to worry about their claws. So it's those falcons that can bite us. In the summertime, we study nesting northern goshawks, and we're not catching them and tagging them. We're just visiting their nest to document, how their nesting season is going. And when you walk through the forest and run into a goshawk territory, they will dive bomb you and yell at you. So I guess that's pretty aggressive.
All right. Great questions. Let's see. Illinois next. Lots of waving in Illinois.
We have 2.
Go for it.
Have any birds ever escaped the trap?
Escaped? Yes, sometimes. Usually when they're in the trap. So that's why we run out to the trap, is if you left them long enough, they could probably figure out how to get away. Usually they don't escape once we grab a hold of them. But sometimes, we spend a lot of time training people. So if you're a new biologist and you're just training how to catch hawks, then sometimes they do get away.
Okay, one more. On a good day, about how many birds do you catch?
On a really good day for raptors, we'll catch like 25 or more at our station. And for songbirds, sometimes a record day is like 400 songbirds. So we can catch a lot of songbirds.
All right. Great questions. Let's go back to this group here with our bird hides. Very cool project. You guys have another question?
How much does it eat in a whole day?
How much do they eat in a whole day? Well, raptors can actually go a few days without eating. But sometimes we catch them in our trapping blind, and we can actually see that they've recently eaten a meal. So hawks store their food in what's called a crop. So it's sort of this pouch before their stomach. And when they've eaten something really big, their throat bulges out. And so sometimes we'll catch a hawk and we can tell that they've eaten a whole bird. And you can just see this little songbird-sized lump in their throat that they've eaten.
All right. Good question. You guys want to squeeze one more in? You have another one?
I have another one. How much do they weigh?
Oh, that's a really good question. So a lot of these birds don't weigh very much. So like a small sharp-shinned hawk, a male might only weigh about 150 grams. So imagine like 100 M&Ms. Golden eagles can weigh 12 pounds, which that sounds like a lot, but for their size, they're actually very lightweight because they still need to be able to fly.
All right. Great questions from our crew. Let's go back to Washington. I think I see somebody waiting to ask another one.
What is your farthest catch?
Our farthest catch? Ooh, probably the returns that we've had of Cooper's hawks down in Mexico. But yeah, we've had a lot of retraps from California also, which is pretty far from us.
All right. Do you guys have one more you want to squeeze in? No pressure.
She's coming up.
All right. I think I see someone. Perfect.
What's your question? Say it to me and I can say it. Okay. Say it nice and loud.
So when you guys get the migrating, like a migrating bird through, how often is it that you see a pattern of the same birds that migrate through, and how often do you get new ones that you have to tag versus just being the ones from before?
What's your percentage of recaps versus new birds?
But from the same migrating area, not just from anywhere.
Okay.
So within our station, we don't get a ton of retraps because our raptors don't hang out very often, or for very long. On songbirds, usually what happens is a songbird lands at our station and then they need to refuel. So they'll eat for about a week. And so we might catch them a few times during that time period, and we'll see them fatten up over time. But songbirds are doing a different strategy. So they're flap, 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 and then they have to rest for a week, and then flap, 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 flap. Raptors, they just get up, they find the nice air currents, and they soar every single day. So each day they're moving, hundreds of miles. So usually I would say we probably get 2 or 3 retraps, and they're usually from previous years. So the same hawk using the same path each year. And then we probably get about 10 retraps from other stations south of us. So our bird keeps flying and then somebody else catches it.
All right. Well, I want to start off with a big shout out to our YouTube crew who joined us today. Thanks for sending in those great questions. In fact, I'm going to squeeze one more in from YouTube, a quick one. They were wondering if there's bird banding stations in Alaska.
Oh, there are. I can't name any off the top of my head, but yeah, there's definitely some bird scientists. I mostly have been talking to some hummingbird banders up in Alaska, but I know there's hawk banders there as well.
Very cool. We just lost all our hummingbirds. We have a few feeders in our backyard here around Toronto, about an hour from Toronto in Canada. And we were having them the last little while just nonstop. And I think they've all decided time to go. We fueled up. We're out. So
yeah,
we see ours for a while now. Yeah, well, huge shout out to those YouTube classrooms, to our camera classrooms. Thank you so much for joining us today and sending in all of those great questions. Thanks for playing Kahoot with us. It's always a lot of fun. Heidi, thank you so much. I know the cold front kind of rained on our parade today, but it was great to see you. Great to learn about the songbirds and the raptors and their migration. And no question, come next fall, we're looking forward to heading back out to Lucky Peak and seeing what we can catch.
Yeah, thanks for all the good questions today. It was fun.
All right. Well, thanks so much, everybody. Most of the classrooms have ducked out, but I'll pop in who's still here if you want to give a big wave as we wrap up today. Thanks so much, everybody. It was great to see you. And we look forward to seeing your groups and more events. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, guys. Cool.